Let's go. Welcome back to the Daily Dose with Dylan Davis, everybody. We are streaming to you guys live through the Painted Lines Twitter and YouTube accounts and live here on our DSM Media Twitch account. I am joined today by my man, Scotty. Gint's too much of a bum to join us. He's stuck at work today, so my man, Scott, to follow on Twitter at Scotty Drown. And a new person in the co-host seat today, my man, JD. Been meaning to do this for a while. How are you? All Sixered up today. I know Scott was there, so before we get into our takeaways in the game and all that, Scott, how was the Wells Fargo Center yesterday afternoon?
Man, so what I'll say, dude, like going to the games, earlier this season, because like this wasn't my first game, obviously. Like I went to the Nets game and then I went to an OKC game. It was real cheap. That one obviously wasn't nearly the environment that was on Sunday here. And man, I went, like I said, I went to that important Nets game. I think it was in April or the beginning of May.
Yeah.
Doesn't even touch the atmosphere yesterday. Like I know it was 11,000 people in there yesterday. So. They're going to increase it again once we hit June. So you just hope the Sixers can make it that far, and that the Wells Fargo Center is going to be crazy. Yes. I'm telling you, man. And the Wizards. Shout out to the Wizards because they was playing into it and they was feeding us. So they were getting us even more hype with all the shit they were talking. So
the Wizards / Bradley Beal. We'll get into that later. But JD, we'll start with you, man. What is one of your biggest takeaways from yesterday's Game 1 victory?
Is that we may not need an on-fire Embiid to beat a lot of people. He was out for a lot of the first half with foul trouble, BS fouls, but
yeah.
Normally, most people would say that when you lose your big man and he's your main scorer, you struggle. That didn't seem to be the case. Tobias took that role over quite easily, and he's been kind of the steady hand all season. No matter what happens, he's just kind of always showing up, and I think that snub is really playing a part in his a revenge tour, and I'm glad I'm on the right side of that thing.
Yeah, that's the most improved player of the year right there, not Mr. Julius Randle who shot. What did you shoot last night, Scott? 6
for 23, bro.
Oh, that's rough, bro. That's rough for that candidacy. So before we get into that, JD mentioned the refs, and I'm just going to throw it out there now. We're not going to keep talking about it. I'm never the guy to do this. What the hell did we watch yesterday, man? Like, I'm being dead serious. I forgot that people paid money to go to the Wells Fargo Center, or people tuned in on television to watch, the guys in stripes yesterday and to hear whistles be blown over and over and over again. Joel Embiid picked up 3 fouls with 7 minutes left in the first half. And I'd say the first one's a foul. After that, the offensive swing through the elbow with the N1 that got called offensive was awful. And then the third one was one of the worst calls I've ever seen in my life. Yeah, I've never seen that, especially against the 1 seed, the home team. Joel Embiid, is the guy that's constantly getting to the line, and he shot 13 free throws yesterday. But he's normally not on the wrong side of a lot of those calls. And yesterday, I don't know what the refs were, trying to prove, if they're just that bad at their job. But dude, it was rough. So Scott, how was the Wells Fargo Center sounding for some of those calls, man? Because that was brutal.
We were probably 2 or 3 minutes into the game, and the refs suck chants were already ringing throughout the arena. But I think I realized that these refs are just terrible. I don't think they mean to influence one way or the other. I think they're just that bad at their jobs. Because you saw even on the one foul on Raul Neto, he hit the 3. And then he did get fouled on the 3. And he yells at the ref, and the ref immediately tees him up. And it's that's a double negative. You missed the foul call, and then you teed him up on top of it. That when I saw that sequence, and then just how the rest of the game played out, I was just oh my God. And you see it in the other games too. I think the refereeing is something to talk about with the NBA in general. I think they're just terrible.
Yeah, no, it's really bad. But to go off of JD's point, obviously that's the biggest thing, and he said for a lot of these teams. So yeah, we're going to need Joel Embiid in the game. for 38 to 40 minutes to beat a Brooklyn Nets and Milwaukee Bucks team if we reach it to the NBA Finals. But in these first 2 rounds, you're right, man. Like, you probably don't need Joel Embiid to average 30 to 35 points, and he still gave you 30 yesterday. Gave you 30 in like 28, 29 minutes, even with all that foul trouble and missing most of the first half. But to go to Tobias Harris, that was my, biggest thing yesterday was, my God, dude, he had 28 at halftime. He finished with, obviously he slowed down in the second half, but that's because Joel was back. The offense was going through him. And Seth Curry caught fire as well, and we'll get to him in a little bit. But Tobias getting you a career playoff high 37 yesterday, and just exploiting mismatches all over the floor. He started going at, Rui Hachimura, who was, I think, his assignment for most of the game, and he, dismantled Rui on that side of the floor. But anytime they switched, anytime he found Raul Neto on him on a switch, or he found a smaller defender, and he's done it all regular season as well, he establishes position in the mid-range, calls for the ball, demands the ball, gets it, goes to work, too small. Grown man bucket. I've said it all year. And that was the biggest thing, dude, to see him, watching him struggle in those 4 games against Boston last year. And, he's one of the worst contracts we've ever had. And then you watch the performance he put on all regular season, to see him do that. And it's only 1 game. It's only 1 game against the Washington Wizards. So you do need to see more, but it was really, really impressive and really, really cool to see how Tobias Harris, like JD said, just took the reins when the man was out. Tobias said, okay, I'm going to put you guys on my back now. So, Scott, I don't know what other takeaways you have, or if you want to go off of Tobias and Joel.
Yeah. I just kind of wanted to follow up on you guys with Tobias and just point out, it was pointed out to me, and I think it was our guy Dibes who put the tweet out, how, Tobias Harris has struggled against the Wizards in the regular season.
Yeah.
So he averaged like 14.5 points against the Wizards the 3 times they played this year. And that's why I think it is a huge, mark for him to come out and just drop 37 in the first game, shut all that noise up. He doesn't have a problem with any of the matchups with the Wizards at all. So I thought that was a good point for Tobias. But then just looking at it in the grand scheme, I mean, he was the leading scorer of all game 1s that have happened so far. Like, he's the leading scorer in the playoffs right now. And that's got to be exciting, and I mentioned it to you before we hopped on here. If Embiid plays the first half, he probably ends up with 40 or 50 points. Like, he's dropping them easy on these guys. Those buckets are easy for him. Like, people that are worried about the Wizards, and we'll get, I guess I'll let you get to the next segment, because I'm about to get into a spiel, but people that are worried about the Wizards based on that game yesterday, that's just foolishness.
No, man, we'll just run through all our takeaways. So anything that you guys have in mind or have on you want to get off your chest, feel free. I just want to run through some. Tobias Harris, like I said, it was my biggest one. And then I guess let's get to, and we already talked about the greatness of Joel Embiid. There's not much we're going to say game to game on his play, but the guy that, the focus is always on, no matter how well he plays, no matter how poor he plays, the spotlight's always on him. And that's my second takeaway. There's a time and a place. There's games to be frustrated with 2-5, right?
Yeah.
Yesterday is not one of those games. But it's happening. And that's what I can't wrap my mind around, dude. He had 15 rebounds, 15 assists. He ran the offense. The offense, it might have went stagnant for a second here and there with him and Dwight's minutes being clustered together. But outside of that, he was pushing the pace. He held Bradley Beal to 1 of 6 from the field. I get it. He went 0 of 6 from the line, like that comment just said. And he only had 6 points. He wasn't called upon to score yesterday. That wasn't They didn't need that yesterday. So to be frustrated with the 6 points, you want to be frustrated with the 0 of 6 from the line. Okay, that can't happen, right? We understand that. But to be annoyed with his play yesterday, I can't wrap my mind around it, dude.
Well, so I'm gonna jump in here because I've been wanting to say this. I've been chopping at the bit to get us off my chest. I've been a big not so much pacifist of Ben Simmons, but I think people need to realize who Ben Simmons is. On the way that this team is constructed, that's why there's all these weapons around him offensively, so he doesn't have to put pressure on himself to score. Ben is his best when he's a facilitator and focused on defense. That's why the emergence of Tobias Harris is so important for us. And that's why the money was spent for him. And that's why Doc Rivers was required, so they could get Tobias Harris back to how he played when he was with the Clippers. Ben Simmons doesn't worry me at all for the playoffs because they're going to put him on the best player, and they already know how to win without Ben scoring. So it's not like they, counting on Ben to have 40 points or 20 points even. They win without him. The way that the team is currently constructed, that's why they have Danny Green, who can get hot. They got Steph Curry, who can get hot. They got all these people. Even Shake Milton can come in and give you some buckets. And we saw last night when they put in the young bull, like he went and got him. He came in and got an and one right off the bat. So
that's crazy, man.
I think everybody should just calm down about Ben Simmons. At the end of the day, he's a perennial all-star, and not because of his scoring, but because of what he brings exponentially, which is his passing, his mindset for pushing the ball, and his defense. That's just what I take from Ben Simmons. Just take it and leave it.
So real quick before Scott jumps in here, the biggest thing to me is, and I'm seeing it all over the place. Well, that can't happen against the Nets, or he can't only have 6 points against the Bucks. Why are you worried about that right now? Did they win the game yesterday? Yeah. He had 15 boards and assists and held Bradley Beal to 1 of 6. Ask Dame how it is to have Ben on you. Ask Luka how it is to have Ben on you. Don't get it twisted. He can be frustrating at times on the offensive end. Yesterday isn't one of those times to get annoyed with his play offensively. And then I saw there was a comment over here. But the other thing with acquiring Doc, like you said, JD, is there's no 4-on-5. That mentality of the Sixers play down a man offensively 4-on-5. No, because Doc puts him in a spot to where around the basket in the paint where you have to throw a body at him. You can't double Joe or you can't double Toby because Ben's out there. No, he puts him down in the dunker spot where you have to guard him.
Yep.
It's unbelievable. Go ahead, Scott.
Yeah, no, just to chime in off of you guys. I mean, look at the score yesterday. We scored 125 points. We're not lacking offense. Like we scored close to 130 points in the game 1 of the playoffs. We've been off for a week.
Yeah,
you don't need more offense. Like Ben Simmons did everything that he was supposed to. The 6 free throws, yeah, we want him to shoot
right.
I would hope like 60, 70% from the line. Like I would like that. Yes, that would make his life a lot easier. Sure. But 6 points, like him getting 10 or 12 points yesterday isn't making the difference in that game. The difference in that game is the 15 assists. That equates to at least 30 points of offense. Like, I don't understand how people can't get that and like do that math in their head. That's at least 30 points of offense. And that's not even counting 3-pointers, which most of his assists are out to threes. So I really don't get it. And then you look at what he does down the stretch against Bradley Beal. People always pull these full game numbers of Bradley Beal, 33 points. Ben didn't guard him the whole game. He guarded him in the clutchest moments of the game, and he shut him down. That's it. Like, it's not this deep. Like, this Ben, like, this polarizing figure that Philadelphia and the national media turns Ben into. He's a great basketball player. And if he was at the YMCA, if this is an NBA rec league, he's getting picked first because he passes the ball. Many players in the league are willing to pass the basketball.
I mean, dude, Tobias Harris shot 29 shots yesterday.
He doesn't get 37 without Ben Simmons being a facilitator.
So, and then JD, I think he started it off perfectly with what I think a lot of the issue in this fan base comes here. People need to realize what he is. This is who he is. And in their mind, it's, oh, if he has a jump shot, oh, why won't he shoot the ball? Oh, why won't he take a 3? That's not who he is. And until you wrap your mind around that, you're going to continue to be bothered by it. I'm not going to spend my time that way. I'm going to spend my time appreciating the fact that the Sixers just won a playoff game by 7 points in game 1, and they're up 1-0 in the series. Large part due to Ben Simmons. So that's that on the Ben front for me. I don't know if you guys have anything else you want to throw there. Just a little bit else offensively. It was nice. Yeah, go ahead.
So I was going to say there was a kind of a transition. I think we're in the third going into the fourth quarter when the ball was like falling all over the place. People were scattering for it. Ben ends up coming up with it. And we ended up getting a 3-point out of it. And that starts like a ripple effect where Curry hits a 3, and then Danny Green comes down and hits a 3, and there's like a 7 or 8 point swing. For a point guard, I was a point guard, so I know at the end of the day, that gets me hyped. Ben is a pure point guard. He's just big. Like, imagine if Ben was 5'8". We wouldn't be having this conversation. Ben is 5'8" and a 6'10" body. So he doesn't like realize how big he really is. It's like he got big all of a sudden. Like he was short and he got big, and he hasn't realized it yet. Once he really realizes how big he is and how dominant he can be, I think he'll be. He has glimmers of times where, if you remember, Ben was really aggressive at the very beginning of the game. Like he was sitting to the cup, he was being very aggressive, and from that started a trickle down effect for Toby to get off, because they started taking more attention to, like, oh, we can't let Ben Simmons get going, because if Ben Simmons has 20 on you, you're probably going to lose badly. I'm just going to be honest.
Yeah, and I think that, when you talk about the beginning of the game, he was actually in the low post calling for the ball because he recognized Bradley Beal was on him, and that was one of his first 2 buckets early. And then we didn't even mention this yet. A brought it up here. That transition pass to George Hill was one of the grossest passes I've ever seen. When you talk about, you put out the on a rope. That ball was on a goddamn rope, dude. I couldn't believe he made that pass. And then we haven't even mentioned the putback, because I jumped out of my seat, and that was the grossest thing I've seen all weekend with that. He was backwards, dude. I don't know how he did it. Like, he was backwards, and I don't even know how to describe what he did on that putback yesterday. But other than that, offensively, I think the biggest turning point to me, because we know they trailed by 1 at halftime and they trailed by 1 after the first quarter, was the fact that, okay, Joel, wasn't getting going yet because he was in a lot of foul trouble, and Toby was carrying everything offensively. And there was, Mark Zumoff made a point at one point. Seth Curry finally hit a shot or something, and it was the first Sixer outside of Tobias Harris to score in the last 6.5 minutes. That's how dominant Tobias Harris was yesterday in keeping this team in the game. But then I think the part where the game changed was Seth Curry offensively in the third quarter, because he got going, and I think he scored 13 points in the third quarter or something, and he hit 2 threes within a 2-minute span. And the one that JD just alluded to, when they were rolling all over the floor, Ben pushes the ball up the floor to Toby, he drops it back to Seth, and as we know, Mark Zumoff let out a big yes as Curry puts him up 7. So that was huge there. And then just another takeaway for me, George Hill was huge yesterday, in my opinion. He only, he had 11 points in 18 minutes. I think he had 11, 2, and 2, but he was freaking huge. When things, were, a little dicey in the first half, when he came in, it was just like a calming presence. And he hit the Sixers' first 3 of the game when they were ice cold. Everything he did, was just calm and cool and collected. And I think he really calmed this team down a little bit, which is something you don't see with another backup point guard, but we'll get to him in a little bit. But what were your thoughts on George Hill yesterday, Scott, or Seth Curry, wherever you want to take it?
I have the perfect point to kind of follow that up. I even have it written down here. So Seth Curry, George Hill, Danny Green yesterday, right? 37 points, 7 for 16 from the 3-point line. If those guys are getting you 30 to 40 points any given night, then you're winning that basketball game, right? That's all you need from those guys is a steady 10 to 12 points, 10 to 15 points from each of those guys, or one of those guys to go off that night. Seth Curry can give you a 20-point night any night. Whenever those guys are giving Embiid and Tobias that help from the role players, it doesn't ask for much from the rest of the team, right? Because Tobias and Embiid are going to give you at least 40 to 50 points a night. Embiid most likely is going to give you 30 points. Tobias is going to give you anywhere from
20
to 25, on a regular night. So when you're getting that out of those 3 guys, those are the guys that we brought in for that reason, right? The shooters, just spacing the floor out. When those guys are hitting shots like that, that's a little under 50%, a little over 40. It's going to be hard to beat the Sixers on nights like that. So just to follow up on your point, they're extremely important, whether it's George Hill, Seth Curry, Danny Green. Those guys all play and fall into similar roles.
And I think it was Paul Hudrick who tweeted at the time in the second half, once, Danny hit a 3, Seth hit a 3, and things got going from beyond the arc, because they were ice cold to start the game from the 3-point line. He said one of the beat reporters said something along the line of life's a lot easier when those shots go in. That's why the first half was so close. Not just the fact that Embiid was on the bench for a lot of it, but they were ice freaking cold from beyond the arc. Everything was short. And then, once those role players, once those 3-point threats actually start coming in, when Joel kicks out of a double team or Ben dribble drives and kicks out to an open Seth Curry, once those shots start falling, everything else for the big guys, their life gets so much easier. And that's when the Sixers can really become dominant. And like you said, Scott, when, 3 of the role players are producing 30 to 40 points for you outside of Joe, Ben, and Toby, this team's in pretty damn good shape to win a ball game. And I think they have multiple guys that can do that, to be honest with you. When you said Seth, Danny, George Hill, I'm going to dog them in a second, but Shakes obviously, can give you double digits off the bench. So there's multiple guys that can come in and produce for you. But yeah, that was huge for me. Is there any other takeaways you guys have from yesterday's game?
Just the 11 guys in the rotation. You saw 11 guys hit the floor. I'm just kind of wondering what maybe you guys' thoughts are on that. If you think that's like going to be an ongoing thing. I think Doc personally, I just think Doc was kind of, testing the water there, trying to steal a couple minutes for his starters against the Wizards. But I don't see him going that deep unless you're having, some of these streakier guys like Korkmaz who came in and was just terrible. So when you have things like that, then you will see them reach to maybe like a maxi. But I'm just wondering what you guys think as far as like the rotation and how far down the line that extends.
You want me to go and take this one, Dylan?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I'm looking down the box score right now, and I'm looking at a lot of numbers at guys that normally don't perform that well. Dwight normally doesn't give us that many points, but he gave us 7. George Hill is his first game that I've really seen him have a really standout game. George Hill gave us 11. And in most cases, Shake gives us – he's played really well against Washington historically throughout the year, and he just didn't. But there's a key in there that looks a little different than most. So George Hill scoring 11 matches up with the Danny Green scoring 11. And like you just alluded to, the 30 points that they could give you, that could go for anybody. Doc is a resourceful coach. If you're not playing well, he's not going to force it. He'll just find somebody else to kind of move in that spot. Normally we see Thibault hit a couple threes if he gets open. He was ice cold, but he stayed in the game for a considerable amount of time because he can play defense. So the thing about Doc is he always is so resourceful with his offensive playing that he just kind of plugs and plays people as he sees need be. And that's something that we didn't have with Brett Brown, and that's a really good sign of a good coach is the adjustments. That's why adjustments are huge. That's why in the past when we didn't have them, we looked so bad. And now that we're looking at it as like game one, Doc is not only all year he's been strengthening our bench. If you guys haven't noticed, he's been playing a lot of players. Yeah, I'm a Clemson football fan, so everybody knows like Dabo plays like the most players in like college history. He just puts people in. He's like you got one arm, he'll play. So he just wants to strengthen his bench because there's going to be times where the starters might not be hot, but because you got some type of rhythm, you can come in and do something. So I love Doc for that. I don't know if it'll be 11 every game, but I hope that he stays around a strong 8 or 9. So
I think, especially in this round against Washington, a lesser opponent, and I think you'll even see it in the second round against the winner of New York and Atlanta. I think you're going to see Doc reach farther down his bench for against lesser teams where those guys aren't going to kill you. I think game one though, I think you saw him just trying to put it together, like kind of figure out who's going to play. And to get to my guy here, shout out to Gint because Scott, he's asked both of us this. What's Shake's leash, right? He asked that going into the playoffs. Like, does he have how short is his leash with Doc? Because he's been struggling recently. Mm-hmm. He only played 9 minutes yesterday, guys, and he struggled. And he was a minus 14. Yeah, Shake was a minus 14 in 9 minutes. His leash isn't long. Shake Milton has a short-ass leash right now with Doc Rivers in this postseason, and I think that was my biggest thing. Like, Korkmaz came in, he threw him out there. He went 0-3 from deep, and we didn't see him for the rest of the game. You know what I mean? So, yeah. So, I think that's kind of where he's at. I think it's a combination of both. It's JD's right. So, Korkmaz wasn't hot, so he had to go somewhere else and find offense that way off the bench. But at the same time, I think it's game one against a lesser opponent at home. He's also trying to figure out, okay, who can compete for a rotation spot right now. And I'm being dead serious, guys. You wouldn't have caught me saying this 2 months ago. Tyrese Maxey should play over Shake Milton right now. You wouldn't have caught me saying that a couple months ago.
I agree.
Is more composed, first of all, because when Shake is struggling, you can just see it. His body language tells the story. Shake's not in the game. Maxey's composed. He scraps. He's like an Energizer bunny, dude. He just comes in the game and he's bouncing around and he goes nuts. And like JD said earlier, he comes in, dribble drive, bang, N1. He's on the floor and he's finally getting those calls, which I think can help you offensively now. Earlier in the year, Maxey drove to the rack. He could have got hit with a sledgehammer and they weren't calling a foul. Now he's getting those calls with contact. So yeah, I think it was kind of just Doc figuring out who can fit and who's not going to fit so far. But I think JD's right. I don't think he'll hesitate to reach further down these first 2 rounds at all.
Yeah, and I got one thing on the Maxey and Shake thing. I agree with your line of thinking there. I would give all of Shake's minutes to Maxey at this point, and until Maxey, and then we can flip flop back and forth, whichever one wants to mess around and lose their position. But I feel like Maxey has really earned the role to come in and man that second unit. Like if George Hill isn't going to be like the guy running point if he's playing off the ball, Maxey is that guy that comes in. My thing with Maxey is that he has a purpose. Whenever he comes into the game, he knows his purpose, he knows his role, he knows what he's going in the game to do. Shake comes in the game. Sometimes he's all timid, pansying around with the basketball.
The shoulders are up here.
Shoulders are up here, shooting flat and like turning the ball over. Maxey comes in, he turns the ball over, he shrugs his shoulders. You don't see him get down. He's just like, you know what I mean? Like I'll come back and he comes back down, gets a bucket afterwards. He makes up for it. Like
real quick, you said Maxey's earned these minutes, and I'm not disagreeing, but how much of it do you think Maxey's earned it and Shake just hasn't earned enough to keep that spot? Because his play has been awful lately, man. And I just think and Doc, like you guys have both said, he's quick with the trigger, dude. Like he's not going to play around right now. And I think a lot of that goes back to last year's playoff series with the Clippers. Like he got killed for sticking with Trez Harrell and Lou Williams in that series. I don't think he's messing around this year. If you're a detriment to the team at a moment, you're off the floor. Like I said, Furk, you see Brett Brown last year. Furkan Korkmaz isn't coming out of the game after missing his first 3. He's staying out there. Shake Milton doesn't only play 9 minutes last year. He stays out there. Yeah. So that's one thing that we're all going to be keeping an eye on for sure is what does Doc do with this bench? How deep will he reach down? We didn't see any Mike Scott minutes, so I guess that's a positive. Yeah.
Oddly enough, 11-man rotation, and Mike Scott wasn't one of them. That's pretty wild.
And I think one of the coolest things I saw yesterday was
you don't need Mike Scott.
Hell no, you don't.
I agree.
Hell no.
Didn't give him any run. I'm surprised, but yeah, I agree. We don't need him for sure.
One of the coolest things I saw yesterday was when Seth was getting hot. Steph was tweeting about it, and I thought I was like, "Come join us, come join us." But yeah, man, just looking ahead at this series, I guess there's no fear that this Sixers team doesn't win in 5 games to me. Like the Washington Wizards were the least of the 4 that I wanted to see out of the play-in. I told you that before, Scott, because they have guys. They have Russ. They have Bradley Beal. They are killers. They're not a good team outside of that. They're just not, dude. Like Raul Neto is literally in their starting lineup. Ish Smith comes off the bench and plays valuable minutes for them. They're not competing with the Sixers team. They might steal a game in Washington in game 3 or 4, but that is it. It's over in 5. And I just think that's the biggest thing right now with the Sixers is they're exploiting mismatches, dude. Yeah. Like, and that's one thing that I'm loving. So it's not forcing the ball down to Joe. It's not forcing the ball here. It's if they switch and Neto's on Tobias, ball's in Tobias' hands. If Ben's in the dunker spot and Bradley Beal's on him, ball's going down to Ben. Joel has been fantastic out of reading a double team or a triple team and kicking out of it and making the right read. And he's continued to do the one thing I said earlier this year. And I don't know if you guys have noticed this or not, but when Joel has the ball in the low post and he's backing down whoever's on him, the center or whatever, and then he sees that double team come, he doesn't pick his dribble up and get caught in the double team. He dribbles back out towards the top of the key and then makes the right read. And that's the biggest development in his game that I've seen with a double team this year. It's not picking the ball up and then, being scattered, not knowing where to go with it, finding the open man of the 4, he's keeping it alive, and then he resets the offense. So he's been awesome. And I really just hope that the refs let him play in game 2 because that was a travesty.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
I wanted to say this real quick. I don't know if you guys have seen this or noticed this. And this is about Maxey. Maxey has a sensei now, and it's Sam Cassell. And Sam Cassell has kind of made him his little protege. And you've been watching. I don't think Doc was very high on Maxey at first. Like from what I've heard, they kind of button heads. The young kid coming in thinking he knows more than the coach. And I think Sam has kind of taken him aside and said, listen, he's the coach. Let me work with you. And I think he's taken some of the advice that Sam has given him. Even during the game, you'll see Sam go directly to him and say something to him, and then he'll come back and implement it the next time down the court. Sam Cassell was one of the greatest point guards of all time, and I don't care if people believe it or not. I'm telling you, he was. And he is a brilliant basketball mind, and I think because of that, you're seeing that implement itself in the games every week, and now he's getting better. Before we were saying, "Oh, don't put Maxey in; he's too young." Now we're saying he's the steadier hand out of a veteran backcourt. He's more of a steadying hand when he comes in. And then he's playing with house money as well. Because if he doesn't play, he's a rookie or he's young. So it doesn't matter. That's what most rookies and young people don't do. They just have to wait their turn. But in his case, because he has Sam, I think we're going to see more growth in him than we would have ever saw him being a bullheaded little kid or rookie coming in trying to prove himself. And I love that. Another thing you said about kind of like Doc Rivers, the way he's constructing like the lineup and what he's doing. I don't know if you guys have noticed this either, but when he makes moves, they're all very strategic. When he puts in Dwight Howard, he's not getting upset when Dwight Howard is getting into these like skirmishes and stuff. That's what you need. He's the Perkins of our team from when he coached Boston. Perkins was in there for 2 reasons, and it was 1 to get under your skin, 2 to be a defensive player, and to rile things up. And he was an enforcer. And I'm hoping that Dwight takes more of the enforcer role for the rest of the season. So so Embiid doesn't have to. He can stay kind of back playing his game. And all this chirping that you keep hearing from the Wizards, that's not going to do anything but fuel the flame. So they might get out in 4 games, man. I'm going to be honest.
Yeah. So, and that's what Abe says here. And then real quick, we have Love from India. Thank you so much for tuning in, man. And it was a great weekend of NBA playoffs. But to the Maxey point, he dropped the N1 yesterday. And when you saw, they literally zoomed in on Sam Cassell going nuts on the bench. So I think you're 100% correct there. And even Zoom Off, mentioned something about that. But then when you look to with Dwight, let me ask you guys this, because there are, the people that, get annoyed by Dwight, and I get it. And the fit's probably not perfect. With Ben out there, or especially when Thibault is out there too, the offense can get real stagnant and there's not a lot of spacing. But I think, what's your guys' opinion on the fact that, like JD just said, now Dwight comes in after the centers of the opponent have to deal with Joel Embiid in the low post and bang down low with Joel Embiid, instead of spacing the floor, and now you have a stretch big who's going to stand at the 3-point line just for fit reasons. You got to bang with Dwight Howard on the low post, and he's going to throw that big-ass shoulder into your chest over and over again, and he's going to bang on the boards with you. Like, how much does that play a role, too? Because I know people wanted, a Luke Cornett-type backup center that's just going to stretch the floor for fit reasons next to Ben Simmons. But then you have Dwight, who, he's not going to give you a lot offensively. But after you just had to deal with 7-foot Joel Embiid, who's dominating you and getting you into foul trouble, you got Dwight Howard throwing his shoulder and his forearm into you over and over and over again. And then, guess what? When he goes out, Joel Embiid comes back in. So I think that plays a huge role in their philosophy as well.
Yeah, and what I would say, with Dwight Howard, I get people get upset with him, the dumb fouls, whatever the case may be. But think about this in a 7-game series, right? As you get into these grueling, like, game 5s, even game 4, like, once you get to playing this team for like the 3rd or 4th time, it's a battle every single game. So then you think about, Joel Embiid, he's going to be getting a lot of minutes there. But then a fresh Dwight Howard comes in and just throws your center on the ground. You know what I mean?
Right. Even if it's a fail. All right, well, right.
He doesn't need to play in the 4th quarter in the clutch moments where it actually cost us. Sure. No, we don't play him there. Of course. That's where Joel Embiid plays. Like, I think people got confused during that little run there where Dwight
start
against the Lakers, and then he got suspended against the Clippers or something. He's not playing that amount of time in these games unless Joel Embiid is in foul trouble. And he's not ever going to be in those moments at the end of the game where it can actually cost us. So Dwight Howard, I'm living it. I love what he brings. He is the enforcer. He is that guy, the irritant that comes in. Yep. He's full of energy. He gets on the glass. He does all the little things that not everybody else likes to do. I mean, what is wrong with that? I never.
And I think that's another thing Doc's cleaning up in the rotation, like in the playoffs. And if Joel didn't get into that nonsense, foul trouble in the first half, you don't really see Ben and Dwight minutes together, and you're not going to in this postseason. You're going to see, George Hill, Maxey, Shake as the point guard when Dwight's on the floor for that, 5-minute spurt, 4-minute spurt, whatever it is, and then Ben's going to come back in with the big boy. So that's I think something else to keep an eye on. Guys, before we have probably like 10 minutes or so left. I want to get your thoughts on just the other games around the league yesterday. I see JD's background, so I'm just going to go out on a limb and assume who his greatest of all time is.
Yeah.
And I want to have a conversation. I was on Twitter yesterday after one too many beers, so that was the tweet. It was getting sent out a lot more frequently. But couldn't be my GOAT, dude. Could not be my GOAT after what he did yesterday. Are you joking? And if you don't know what I'm talking about LeBron James acting like his damn arm got ripped off of his body, like his shoulder got ripped apart by Chris Paul. Literally nothing happened. Their arms got caught for a second. He flew up in the air trying to draw a foul. He hit the ground. You know whose shoulder should have got wrecked? Did you guys see Kevin Durant hit the floor the other night against Boston? And KD just popped right up, right?
Yeah, it was gross.
Yeah, this man lays on the floor, and yeah, he says it here. Do you guys know part of my take on Barstool?
Yes.
So Big Cat brought it up earlier. He showed the video. So LeBron's on the ground. He's, crying, writhing in pain because his arm's unattached from his body. He looks up. He sees like the little brawl, the skirmish happening. He gets up, like hobbles over in the middle of the skirmish where the cameras are, and then falls on the ground there when the skirmish is over. So the camera's back on him again. It's not even a joke, dude. Like there was no reason for him to hobble over there at all. The bench was on the other side, I'm pretty sure, of the floor. Dude,
oh man.
He is unbelievable. And this is after he apparently was a part of Rocky IV and saw 3 rims.
Yo.
Dude, I get it. I get it. He got poked in the eye by Draymond or whatever in that game.
Come on, man.
You don't come out and tell the world, I saw 3 rims, so I shot for the one in the middle. Are you joking me, dude? And now your arm's going to fall off, and he starts not a brawl, but he starts all that nonsense. And then Cameron Payne gets ejected. What the hell did Cameron Payne get ejected for? All he did was throw the ball back at Alex Caruso. He didn't push. He didn't do anything.
But Montrezl Harrell hits him.
Yeah.
He's in the game.
Wait. And then this is after Bron weasels past suspension for violating the health code going on right now. What the hell is going on?
You're piling it on, Dylan. You're building a case here, man.
I am, and here's the worst part, Scott. It's all the LeBron stands out there. It's all the he's the GOAT. He's my second greatest of all time. But they take everything that I'm saying, they take as like a diss, like as a slant. And I know I'm dissing him right now, but I'm not saying it because like I hate LeBron or I don't think I act like LeBron's not top 5 or whatever. He is the second greatest player of all time. He's the best player I've ever seen live. But come on, dude. And I get it. I get the argument. Kobe did things. MJ did things that's going to piss you off. That they're crying or whatever. They didn't do this.
Yo, so I've been chopping at the bit to get a chance to talk about this. Please let me go.
Go ahead.
All right. So I'm a Jordan guy. I've always been a Jordan guy. Jordan had to withstand the Piston years of getting beat up, choked out during the games, punched in the face, all that time. And they used to fight back in them days. I've never seen LeBron come to blows with anybody. nor would I probably ever see. LeBron is that guy who talks trash until the fight happens and you see how he kind of walks away. And then if you guys notice in that skirmish, Chris Paul was trying to help him up. He helped him up 3 times.
Yeah.
Because he had like he couldn't get up, and then he was limping even though he hurt his shoulder. And then so now I'm like looking at it, and I can keep going, and I'm looking at all the ways that the league changes rules for LeBron James because people are just, I hate to say this is gonna hurt you guys' feelings. I'm sorry, I'm gonna say it. People are like LeBron James, how people in Philadelphia are about Carson Wentz. And they will anything they will pacify, even if it's bad. Wentz had a great year. It was great. He was great when he was here, when he did things. Also had some stuff you'd be like, okay, this is not cool. LeBron James, the same thing. LeBron James has done amazing things while he's been in the league, especially off the court. The only problem with that is you never saw Jordan actually get into these things where you like, that was definitely sketchy. And if he did, somebody would try to fight him, and he would fight them back. He might lose. It's like when John Stark scooped him on the scores table, and he got beat up, but he still fought. You've never seen LeBron James ever do anything aggressively to make you think that, you know what, this dude's is really aggressive. I'm sorry, y'all. If you think that he's the GOAT, you are sadly mistaken. 23, the other 23, the real 23 is the GOAT. That Bulls guy that's behind me is the GOAT.
Thank you. Couldn't agree. I wish Gint was on here. But real quick, guys, look out for Milwaukee. They would have lost that game last year. Drew's a difference maker. I agree, man. I've been saying that for a while. Everyone overlooks. I picked them to beat the Brooklyn Nets in the second round. Everyone overlooks that team, and I just think it's wrong. I still think the Sixers match up well with them. And you know, it's only game 1, so we'll have to see how Jimmy and the boys respond. But but Milwaukee definitely is a different team, and Drew Holiday, especially defensively, helps them out a lot. Scott, is there anything else? Do you have an opinion on the whole LeBron issue?
Yeah, no, I agree. I was actually talking about it the other day, and I have like a couple friends that are like Lakers fans, and like, of course, you know, anybody that has LeBron on their team, you're gonna ignore all of that. You know what I mean? Whenever these things are brought up about him, but the league absolutely, you know, bends the knee to LeBron. Like it's crazy how, you know, the thing with me about him not getting suspended, right? Like, okay, everybody turns up, everybody was vaccinated there at the event. It was an outdoor event, and he was only there for a few minutes. It's like we get this whole spiel in all these details, and you guys like got to the bottom of this,
yeah,
and like give us everything.
This whole investigation
is slate. But like with Kyrie Irving, he's just suspended. He was doing some other shit. You know what I mean? Like it's such a shortened script for
Lemon Pepper Lou, dude.
Suspended, like Lemon Pepper Lou. Like it's
to get some wings.
Like is Lemon Pepper Lou vaccinated? Is Kyrie Irving like, you know what I mean? Like we don't get any of those details with those stories. But then with LeBron, we get like this full spiel and explanation of why we can't punish LeBron like we punished everybody else. It's really a joke.
They don't have the cojones.
Yeah, and I knew Adam Silver wasn't going to suspend LeBron in the playoffs. Like I knew that, but it was just funny that he
should have. It would have made it easier for his legacy when he gets bounced in the first round with another top 5 player. And I don't want to hear anything, dude. I swear to God, if they get bounced in the first round, I know that this Phoenix team, sorry, I lost train of thought there for a second, that this Phoenix team is a problem, and they're a 2 seed for a reason. I don't want to hear that LeBron just got off of injury and AD was hurt for all that time. Did they win? Did they make the playoffs? Yeah. Are they both playing right now? Is Dennis Schroeder playing right now? Do they have all their guys right now? Andre Drummond that they brought in? Yeah. If he gets bounced in the first round as the greatest player to play right now, and AD's probably top 5, top 6, wherever you want to rank him as his anchor there, I don't want to hear another word that he's the GOAT if he gets bounced in the first round to Devin Booker's first playoff experience. Not another damn word. But JD, before we get you out of here, dude, I got to ask you guys this: is the other team in LA in trouble?
They're both in trouble. Yeah, they're both in trouble. Because what people don't understand is these teams that they're going against have young superstars that are hungry. Luka, in his own right, is on the come up, and Porzingis played a very good game as well. Mm-hmm. And we haven't seen Porzingis play this good since he played in New York when he was healthy. So let's just say You know, everybody thought the Porzingis trade was a little weird, which I thought it was a little weird. But now looking back at it, Porzingis is like a Dirk Nowitzki that you paired with Doncic. And listen, I don't know if everybody's been watching for a very long time, that normally when Mark Cuban has two big guys and two marquee guys, he can make a push. This team is constructed a lot like the Dallas team with Josh Howard and all those guys. They kind of got some guys in there that you can kind of look at and be like, oh, that person's not that good. But they have a really low-key guy that's from Villanova. And he plays extremely well in pressure. He's been in pressurized situations, and he doesn't crack. He's small, but he doesn't crack. So the Clippers are in trouble. The Lakers are in trouble. If you're an LA fan, you need to find cover because it's going to get bad for you. No games in Staples for a while.
Scott, we can keep banging for a couple more minutes, but JD, I know we got to get you out of here, man. So thank you so much for coming on, and tell the people where they can find you.
Yeah, so I'm JD Oracle. You can find me at JD Oracle _2TW, and I have a show on Heat Ratio. It's called To the Wire. You guys want to go check it out? I think you would be you have find something really good in it. We have a co-host named Terrence and Carm. You can look them up as well. We've had Scotty on, I think, a time or two, and he's been dope. And we got to get Dylan. We got to get you on, man.
Absolutely, man. Thank you for coming on.
All right, man. Thank you, guys.
Have a good one. So, Scott, before we get out of here, I'm just looking at the slate of games, and the Miami, Milwaukee game was already brought up, and the first game of the postseason goes to overtime, and that was a great game. And then, like I said, the Mavs upset the Clippers. Boston hung in there for a while with Brooklyn, but at the end of the day, it was just too much late in that third quarter. Portland takes down Denver and most likely the MVP in game one. I don't see how the Nuggets win this series, dude. I don't.
Yeah. No, I'm with you on that. And I kind of got into it on my pod this morning, but just coming into the series, I didn't really know what to think of it. Like, Jokic is obviously a powerhouse down low. He can shoot outside, but he does most of his work in the paint. But they have no answer in the guard position for Dame or CJ McCollum. I mean, there's nobody that's even close to the caliber of them as far as, losing Jamal Murray. You're bringing in a guy like Monte Moore off the bench. Like this stuff isn't going to work against this extreme, probably a top two backcourt duo in the league. So, I can't see them containing Damian Lillard or even CJ McCollum. At least with Jamal Murray, you have the offensive explosion to where he can go back and forth with those guys.
Right.
We don't even have anything like that. So I just don't see it. I'm with you there.
Yeah, I think that's a wrap. Marky, what's going on, man? And he alludes to it. Rudy got exposed yesterday. The Jazz. I know they dropped game one last night to the Memphis Grizzlies. Donovan Mitchell will be back for game two. And, I don't think Donovan Mitchell is a superstar in this league by any stretch of the imagination just yet. But we saw what he did in the bubble in the playoffs last year. He's clearly the best player on this Utah Jazz team that was a #1 seed all year in the Western Conference. Yeah. If he's healthy and he's back, the Jazz cruise for the next – they might, get the 6, but I say they gentlemen sweep the Grizzlies if he's back. If he's not, if something lingers, Ja might pull out an upset. And Jonas Valanciunas is exposing some people's defensive player of the year. And again, I said earlier, couldn't be my GOAT, couldn't be my defensive player of the year. I'll tell you that. Like I said, all our attention is on the 76ers games, and it was a lot of fun. Don't get me wrong. But I think the most exciting game of the weekend was the least anticipated game for me. And that happened at MSG last night. That Hawks-Knicks game, I texted you at the end of it. That game was a ton of fun, dude. Yeah. I didn't expect that at all. You had the crowd and Spike Lee and everyone getting on Trae Young. And Trae, in the third quarter, I'm watching, and, he ended up finishing with like 30 and 10 or whatever. But he had a couple turnovers. He was taking terrible shots. And I'm like, he's like shooting Atlanta out of this game. And the Knicks went on a big run to go up like 7 or 8 at one point in the third. And then all of a sudden, the fourth quarter came and they're chanting F you. They're chanting F you to Trae Young and F Trae Young. Yeah. Well, Ice Trae had something to say, and it was the greatest thing I've ever seen. One of the greatest things I've ever seen as a Philadelphian. I do not like the New York fan base too much. So to see Madison Square Garden all riled up and all excited because the Knicks are back, baby. Basketball is back at the Garden. Yeah? Okay. Because Ice Trey quieted you guys real quick. It got real quick. Just like when Bradley Beal said, this is my effing house. Yeah? Oh, okay. Yeah.
I don't even stand that dude anymore. But yeah, that Knicks Hawks game was a hell of a game. And like you said, it came down to the wire. I'm still in the line of thinking I still got the Knicks in that series. I think it will go 7. I think you're looking at a Knicks team that is just extremely gifted on defense, and they're clashing with an extremely talented offensive team. In my opinion, when situations like that happen, I think the defense ends up catching a hold, and that kind of takes control of the situation. So I do think the Knicks will get control, but ultimately it's going to come down to a guy that we have talked a lot about, it feels like, recently. And it's going to come down to him and Trae Young. Who is the best player in this series? Is it Julius Randle or is it Trae Young? And it's going to come down to that and who can will their team through this series. And I think we saw that last night. Julius Randle played terribly. Shot 6 for 23 from the field, had 15 points, just totally ineffective. And Trae Young is out here hitting game winners and quieting the crowd. So that's an extreme turn of events in the first game, right?
Yeah, man. And real quick, before we wrap up here, Julius Randle no doubt took a gigantic step this year. And I completely understand why and if he becomes the most improved player of the year. And you know what? He's probably going to be. And one game doesn't define him in the playoffs. He could turn it around tomorrow night or in 2 nights whenever they play the Hawks again and win that series soon. But what I'm saying is Alec Burks was unconscious last night in the fourth quarter. Derrick Rose was making plays and getting buckets for the New York Knicks. And instead of Julius Randle, being a better overall player, being a better overall teammate, and getting those guys the ball and making plays for those guys, he just keeps chucking up threes or keeps chucking up bad shots. And it's like Russell Westbrook yesterday when he kept trying that mid-range bank. That was ugly, dude. He hit like 3 of those straight off the glass. I thought it was going to crack. And that was kind of what Julius Randle, he shot the Knicks out of the game at the end instead of getting the ball in the hands of the guys who are actually, getting buckets for them down the stretch. But that is my take on that Hawks-Knicks series. I don't know who I like to win that series. I really don't. I did bet on the Hawks last night to win game 1. So I did like them yesterday, even though I was nervous as shit for most of that game up until the final 0.9 seconds.
Teams.
Yeah, man. So we'll get into that. And maybe tomorrow or sometime this week, we will get our picks out for the series winners because we haven't done that at all. Outside the Sixers beating the Wizards, we haven't really picked any teams to win the series. But guys, and I'm going to share my screen here just so some people can see this. We are doing a giveaway. So yes, we are live here on the Painted Lines Network, but we are also live on DSM Media's Twitch account. That is myself, that is Scotty, and that is my normal co-host, Matt McGinty. That is our new media channel that we're trying to grow. And by doing so, we are offering a giveaway for you guys. It is a Joel Embiid City Edition t-shirt. So to be qualified for a chance to win, the winner will be selected Wednesday before the Sixers' second game against the Wizards. You have to subscribe to DSM Media on YouTube and DSM Media on Twitch. So real quick, just so you guys can see, I just want to pull it up. There we go. Let me bring it in here. DSM Media. There it is. You see the logo. Really easy. All you have to do is hit that subscribe button. On Twitch, the same thing. Just DSM Media, lowercase. Just subscribe to both, follow both, and you'll be entered for a chance to win a free Joel Embiid City Edition t-shirt shipped directly to your front door. Brought to you by myself, Gant, and Scotty. And guys, we are also on TikTok. So go give us a follow on TikTok. I believe it's just at DSM Media, right, Scott? Let me see real quick. Just the same thing. At and all lowercase DSM Media, one word. Go give that a follow as we'll be posting a lot of fun content, a lot of clips from the shows over there. And we're just trying to grow it, man. So any last words on that, Scott?
No, just help us out, help us grow and branch out, and you won't be disappointed. We're always going to be bringing content every day of the week. So just be sure to follow us on as many platforms as you can so you can catch all the alerts, all the notifications, and all the content.
Absolutely, man. So for myself, you can give me a follow on Twitter at DylanJD98. And for Scott, give him a follow at Scotty Drowned. Have a nice night, everybody, and go Sixers.